You bastard. And we're live with another episode of the Sci-Fi Power Hour-ish. And I'm just going to give you my general thoughts about the Solo experience. But before we about the movie Solo, but before we get into that, non-spoiler, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I'll have my co-host introduce himself. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, this is Piggy Don from Video Game Facts, and I'm planning to watch Solo tomorrow, so I won't be used much when discussing non-spoilers.
Well, I mean, I'm not even going to go that deep into it. I'm just going to give my overall thoughts about it. So, yeah, I mean, this film has been getting some hate from some people, but I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty good. The only thing that I'll agree with is that some people are saying, well, why did they make this movie? And I'll say that the type of material that a young Han Solo, because I'm the one, I read the books behind young Han Solo. It's like an entire trilogy. And then there's like the other stories that talk about Lando Calrissian when he was a young man. And they're really good books. They really expand the Star Wars universe and go in depth and talk about stuff. And I really
there's also plans for a Lando spin-off movie.
Yeah, which they should have done years ago, but whatever. So basically what I'm saying is that these are really cool characters that you really can't tell the story about Han Solo or Lando Calrissian in just a movie. And I think one of the worst things they did was get rid of the expanded universe, because that would have given you a huge data mine of shit to sift through. That didn't mean you had to do everything. You just pick and choose what you wanted. That was a mistake on their part. I think
they could have just retconned all the post Return of the Jedi stories and keep all the prequel.
Well, I mean, that's true, because I'll agree with you. I really was not a huge fan of 60% of the post Return of the Jedi stuff. I did like the fact that Luke in the extended universe eventually wound up hooking up with Mara Jade and they had a kid. But it was and there was kind of Mara Jade used to be an assassin for the Emperor, and so she she was force sensitive. I liked that, but then they kind of messed it up by going too far, because even the extended universe fell into the same. Okay, it's about the Skywalkers and the Solos, and I'm like, is there anyone else in this fucking universe except for Skywalker, Solos, Jedis, and Sith? Because it's a massive galaxy. There's all this other shit, and you just keep on focusing on Skywalkers, Solos, and Sith and Jedi.
It's a good storytelling idea, but it needs more meat.
Yeah. And I think that's a flaw with Star Wars, is that it just keeps on going over the same shit. And I know people are like, well, what about what's his name, Rian Johnson, who was like, yeah, who did the Last Jedi. And I
about changing too much.
I would say that Rian Johnson, the problem with Rian Johnson is that, yeah, I want new stories, but that doesn't mean that you have to shit on the old established characters. Just do a Star Wars movie. The new trilogy shouldn't have been okay.
He's already making his own new trilogy, which won't be.
And let me put it this way: it's purported that he is going to make a new trilogy. I think that you're going to get the 9th movie out of J.J. Abrams next year. And I think this whole Rian Johnson trilogy, that shit's gonna be gone. I think Kathleen Kennedy might be fired next year. I don't think he's gonna be around much longer.
Oh, they'll probably wait for another decade to start greenlighting Rian Johnson.
I don't think they're gonna do Rian Johnson's trilogy. What I'm saying, I think Kathleen Kennedy's gonna get fired, and Rian Johnson's trilogy is gonna get canceled, because the problem right now is that Star Wars grew too big. Basically, we had to wait 15 years between Return of the Jedi and The Phantom Menace. And that was enough time for people's anticipation to build up. We waited, what? Almost
10 years. Because the last Star Wars movie was Revenge of the Sith, which was back in 2005.
Yeah, so basically you had a 3-year gap between all those films, like it was with the original trilogy. And even though those films, the prequel trilogy is not good, the story that it tells is worth telling. Like, you know, like you might not agree with some of the design choices of the prequel trilogy. Like I don't. I'm like, I really don't like some of these characters. But the story that it tells, like it was the only way you could really go. It's like you don't want to do a story about what happens in the future after Return of the Jedi. So you do a story about, well, okay, in A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, the universe is in a shithole because of this fascist dictatorship regime. Why is this happening? And how did it get to this point? So that's a story that was interesting. George Lucas fucked up the storytelling, but the material itself was good.
It's salvageable.
Well, I mean, like, okay, if you're a huge Star Wars fan, you don't like the prequel trilogy because it's not good, but the story that it tells is worth knowing. Like learning how Palpatine basically pulled all these strings in order to cause a civil war, to weaken the Republic, so that he could basically swoop in and take power, legitimately take power before he would basically kind of like Hitler did in Germany. That's actually like really interesting. The handling sucked. I think there was some bad acting. I think how they told the story. I think George Lucas kind of went too far in some respects, but I think the films did get better. Yeah, like The Phantom Menace has some good parts, but I think Attack of the Clones is slightly better, and I think Revenge of the Sith is the best one of all of them. They're not great films, but just compared to against each other, they're like the third one's better.
Right.
You know, but they're not perfect. They're just it's better than it could have been. But back to Solo, I think the material in Solo, like had they kept the extended universe stuff and then gone with, okay, here's the young Han Solo trilogy. Like Disney wants to create their own streaming service. Probably would have been better if they'd done a Star Wars Underground that covered young Han Solo, young Lando Calrissian.
Didn't they plan on making a Star Wars TV show for Disney's streaming service?
Yeah, but I mean, it's probably going to be some bullshit because Disney's been fucking up with Star Wars lately. I think we can all agree on that one. I mean, let's just keep it real. They've been fucking up on Star Wars lately, and it's not going to get better. I don't think anytime soon. But yeah. I think that I personally liked the movie though. Like, was it perfect? No, but I mean, I like the movie. If you're a Star Wars fan, like if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan, you're gonna like this movie. If you're a casual Star Wars fan who thinks you're a hardcore fan, you're not gonna like it. Because they're different.
Also, plus, you're not a true Star Wars fan if you don't watch the movie before listening to the I'm Han Solo song from Connect Star Wars.
No, when I say you're a true fan, like, okay, a lot of the shit that I've heard people ranting about this movie, they're like, I don't like the femme droid who built herself. That's social justice warrior bullshit. Well, she's based on a character in the Lando Calrissian, the young Lando Calrissian series, that basically he has this co-pilot of the Millennium Falcon that is a droid that builds itself. It's not really an android. It's an alien species that is mechanical in nature, that they basically, as they grow older, they just build themselves. They build their body around them, and they eventually become like spaceships. But that's who she's based on. So people are like, I don't like this character. It's based on a character from the extended universe.
That pretty much shows the extension of their knowledge on Star Wars stuff.
Exactly. Like most of like I said, the people who think they're hardcore Star Wars fans but are actually casuals are not gonna like this film. They're the one, I don't like this. hey, why'd they do this? We didn't need to know. It's like, I mean, like the shit that they're bitching about. I don't like this character. That character's from the extended universe, and was canonical until like. Here's the thing: had Disney not thrown away the canon, this movie could have been better, because it would have been, instead of being jury rigged together and them taking the best hits from outside sources, they could have done, okay, here's Han Solo when he's a kid. Here's Han Solo when he's in the Imperial Academy. Here's Han Solo when he, like, okay. So basically, I'm going to give my general review, and then I'll give a little taste of what the Young Han Solo trilogy was about, because some people just don't fucking understand why I'm not angry about why people like Alden Ehrenreich isn't Harrison Ford. Yeah, he isn't like Harrison Ford when you see him in A New Hope. Well, I'm going to tell you why. So basically, the film is a solid, to take a page out of Double Toasted. It's a solid matinee. I wouldn't give it a full price or Better Than Sex. It's a matinee. It's a high price matinee. That being said, like I said, the Young Han Solo trilogy begins with young Han Solo, like being a kid. He's a Corellian. The Corellians are like one of like the 3 or 4 like hyper species. They're one of the 3 or 4 races that basically built the trade networks that basically power the Star Wars galaxy. Okay. And they're like trade, like they a lot of money in Corellia, a lot of poor people because the money's concentrated at the top. Han Solo's grandfather is like the head of one of the merchant houses. And he gets kidnapped, and the guy won't pay the ransom. So Han Solo is raised by this scummy ass human trafficker, slave owner, who basically is like, he's gonna pay one of these days. But the guy doesn't actually raise him. The person who raises young Han Solo is the slave of this guy, who is this female Wookiee. Okay, that's how he knows how to speak, or to understand. It's really hard for a human being to speak Wookiee. He knows how to understand Wookiee. Okay, he can't speak it, and that's why he kind of has an aversion to slavery. Like he doesn't, because basically his adopted mother is basically a Wookiee, and like she dies to protect young Han Solo, because basically he eventually talks her into letting him escape, and she knows she's gonna get caught, but she takes the hit and she's murdered because of it, and that kind of affects him. So that's why he kind of has this thing against slavery. He eventually grows up to be a smuggler, like before he ever gets into the academy, because he's broke. He doesn't have any money. So he winds up basically like teaching himself how to fly and pilot all types of shit on Corellia. And then he eventually gets out of there, and he winds up working on this planet where they grow this drug that's kind of like spice, but it's not. And if you know anything about Star Wars, you know what spice is. It's the crack cocaine of the Star Wars universe. But basically, it's basically like spice, but not quite. It's kind of like spice. But basically, these people have been brainwashed into a religious cult into basically mining this stuff. They aren't addicted to it; they're mining it. And the creatures that do this are related. They're a related species to the Hutts. And basically, they have this ability to create this vibration that they use for mating. But they found that if you use it against humanoid species, it hits their pleasure centers and makes them feel really, really good. So they basically use that to create this fake religious experience where these people mine the spice, and then and then they think they have a religious experience, and they get them addicted to this. Like they get addicted to this intense, pleasurable experience. And so basically, this is where Han Solo meets. Like he's the personal pilot of one of these creatures. They're related to Hutts, but they aren't Hutts because they have legs. But like Hutts, they like to sit in mud wallows and shit. This is where he meets Jabba. and some other Hutts. This is before Jabba becomes the big fish that he is by Return of the Jedi. Like this is like a younger Jabba, and I mean, like he eventually has his adventures on that planet, rescues a girl who breaks his heart at the end of that book. Then he eventually joins another crime syndicate, helping out. He goes into another crime syndicate, but now he's got his own ship. And then in the last book, and he meets in the second book, he finally meets Lando Calrissian and Boba Fett, because Lando helps him out of a jam with Boba Fett. That's why Boba Fett has a vendetta against Han Solo, because he got away. He's the one that got away. But I mean, it's this rich source material that they shat on because of a few things they didn't like. And I'm like right now, Kathleen Kennedy should be interning at the Marvel division that they have at Disney so that she can learn some shit from Kevin Feige. Because even the bad movies, they didn't just throw out the baby with the bathwater. They're like, okay, we'll accept it. We'll move on. We'll take what works. We'll throw out what doesn't work and keep it moving. And that works. So, yeah.
She's probably, perhaps Kathleen Kennedy is in her old age now, since she used to be involved in other pop culture films like Jurassic Park and the Indiana Jones films.
You know what the problem with Kathleen Kennedy is that her method of doing things probably worked really well when she was working with George Lucas.
Right.
Like, because George Lucas wasn't doing that many movies. But now that Disney wants her to do all these different things, and the industry has changed. Like, when George Lucas was making Star Wars movies, even with the second trilogy, with the prequel trilogy, you could still do Star Wars video games. Like, we've gotten like 2 Star Wars video games, like AAA, AA Star Wars video games. We got the Lego Star Wars games, and we got that piece of shit Battlefront. That's it. Like during the prequel trilogy, you had Pod Racer, you had Attack of the Clones, you had Lego Star Wars, you had Yoda story. I mean, you had so many different games, Lego sets, action figure sets. Like, it was a different age. And the thing is that Kathleen Kennedy probably was good for back then, but not now. Like, she just doesn't have the, she just doesn't have the, she basically is in a situation where her skill set is she can't adapt fast enough to the different things.
Right.
That's just my opinion. I'm not like one of those people, well, she's defend Kathleen Kennedy, because I think her going hands off with Rian Johnson was a fuck up, like a major fuck up, because basically, like I said, Han Solo is not a bad movie. But it's kind of like the Justice League effect, where how Batman versus Superman was so bad that like Justice League was just never going to hit those numbers. Well, that's kind of like how The Last Jedi soured Star Wars fans so much that Han Solo is not gonna. It's just not gonna do that well. It'll do okay, but it's not gonna do that well. And that's sad, because, like I said, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and what are your guys' thoughts? I'm sorry to monopolize the conversation.
So one other question in regards to Solo. Will this make the Star Wars Holiday Special somehow canon?
What, the
Star Wars Holiday Special?
I mean, if you want to.
To the new canon.
I mean, if you want to. I mean, I don't care. Like, me personally, I never gave a shit about the Star Wars Holiday Special. Like, I'm not like, oh my god. But then again, I'm a guy who watched the 2 Ewok movies, so like, I'm a real star. Like, I have the comic books. I have I have like multiple book series. I know the back, like, I basically got book series that were about characters that I actually gave a shit about. So I know Admiral Akbar's backstory. I know the young I know Han Solo's backstory. I know about the Mandalorian, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, shit that no one cares about.
So I guess we don't have anything much else to say about movie, non-spoiler wise.
I mean, there's nothing else we can really say. I mean,
Perhaps we
Unless
could
you
move
want to
on
get into spoiler territory, but this is a stream.
or
yeah, I'm
perhaps-
not doing spoilers, so.
So perhaps we could move on to other sci-fi related topics. Didn't you recently say a few days ago that you weren't? I'm trying to remember this one topic you previously said in one of Kenoshi's podcasts. It was something involving Marvel again. I can't remember.
I don't know. I can't remember all the shit I say in podcasts unless it's something really profound. Sorry. I know some people are going to get mad when I say that. How dare you?
I would
It's
offer
not true.
the idea of I would offer the idea of Deadpool too around here, but I'm not sure if you've seen it.
I saw Deadpool. It's I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. I wasn't like the film, like the jokes were funnier in Deadpool, but
As I said, I think the popcorn filler after or a palate cleanser, considering if you watched the Marvel so far.
well, I mean, I saw Deadpool, and I mean, I'm just gonna say it right now. I enjoyed Deadpool, but how can I put this? Like the palate cleanser for me isn't going to be Deadpool. It's going to be
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, because Deadpool, okay, the jokes in Deadpool are funnier, but it's like it's like the story is shittier than in the first film. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like the jokes are funnier, but the story is shittier. So, and for me, like I need a good story. Like just having a whole bunch of jokes doesn't work. You need a good story on top of jokes, and that's the problem with
the meat behind the fat.
Yeah, that's the problem with Ant-Man, is that it's just like, I mean, not Ant-Man, with Deadpool, is that the jokes are funnier, the story is shittier, so it's not as good as the first one, sadly. You know, but it is what it is.
So what are your thoughts on the Juggernauts?
The Juggernaut was cool. The Juggernaut and Colossus fight actually is one of the high points of the movie. And they actually, like, once again, Deadpool is proving that they're doing better with these characters. Like, Colossus was fucking just underutilized in Days of Future Past and in X2. But, like, Colossus is a badass. Like, if you read the comics, he's a badass. I mean, he's kind of an asshole, but he's a badass.
Badass asshole.
Yeah. I mean, but if you watch the fucking, I mean, but that's the X-Men movies. But like, that's why if you go back and watch the X-Men movies, they're not that good, because basically Bryan Singer, like we were still in that age where people were afraid to stay like the comics, right? Like we can't have it be like the comics. We got to fucking ruin everybody. You know, we can't have it be like the comics. You know, so Cyclops is a bitch. Like Cyclops has kicked Wolverine's ass so many times.
Cyclops is the best guy of the X-Men. He, of all people, could take in, and yet you guys turned him into paper.
Yeah, they turned him into a bitch. And I'm like, look, listen, in the comics, he is kind of an asshole because, I mean, his wife just died. He's making out on her grave with
Emma Frost.
With Emma Frost. That's kind of fucked up. But, I mean, she was using mind control. So, you know, it's
right.
You kind of get a little bit of a pass when you get mind controlled, you know.
Yeah, and apparently Juggernaut is played by Ryan Reynolds through motion capture.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure. I don't know, but I think they had another guy, but it could be Ryan Reynolds. I don't know. The only thing that would have been better is if they tried to do this in X3, but X3 was so shitty. If they had like the Juggernaut, because in the Juggernaut, in the thing, In the X-Men comic books, his name is Marco Kane, and he is the he's the stepbrother of Charles Xavier. Marco Kane, the half brother of Charles Xavier. I am Charles Xavier. Wolverine, come here, Wolverine. And like his like Marco Kane, like he but it would be funny if they used that voice actor from early YouTube days.
Oh yeah,
it's like I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
I remember those videos.
Come here, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. You can't stop me, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
There's even the Juggernaut also has his own choir theme in the movie.
Yeah, which would have been hilarious, but they didn't because, you know, it's Fox. And for some reason, they're so deathly afraid to admit that they fucking make comic book movies. No, we got to make it. We can't make it like the comics. Man, fuck you. I still haven't seen the Wolverine that I want to see, which is a Wolverine wearing his fucking yellow outfit. And I'm still pissed off about that. I will never let that go. I don't care what anyone says. I'm never going to let that go.
Apparently, according to Wisecrack, Deadpool 2 was supposed to be an attempt to one-up the Logan movie that came out last year.
Well, it's not going to do that. I mean, and I don't even like the Logan movie, but even I know, yeah, they're not gonna one up that shit. No.
I mean, thematically, it makes sense because Deadpool has a bone to pick with Wolverine, even in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Deadpool has a better healing factor than Wolverine. I think if I remember correctly, basically, like here's the thing that people don't understand about Wolverine. Wolverine, of all of the Weapon X program mutants, is actually like one of the weakest. Like Sabretooth is stronger than him, has a higher healing factor, has better senses than Wolverine. Deadpool has a better healing factor. I think, yeah, Sabretooth's healing factor and Wolverine's healing factor are about the same. But like in every other stat, Sabretooth is much better than Wolverine. And you know, Wade Wilson doesn't have superhuman strength, but his healing factor is so insane that it's like, you know, he can do shit that's just, you know, like you couldn't believe it. You know, you're like, what the fuck? Sabretooth.
And did anyone laugh at the mid-credit scenes?
Some of them. The one where he shoots himself while he's auditioning, while he's reading the script for
Green Lantern.
Green Lantern was hilarious. I'm like, I bet he really does wish he could kill himself. No, because that was a terrible movie. I went to the movie theaters to see that movie, and I was like I was watching it, and the entire time I'm watching that movie, I'm like, this is why this movie sucks. I mean, I can totally understand why this movie fucking sucks, you know?
Right.
And that's sad because I wanted it to be good. But they fucked up.
And it was supposed to kickstart the DC cinematic universe.
Yeah, but I think every film that they've tried to kickstart the DC cinematic universe with sucked. Like Man of Steel sucked. See what else sucked. Green Lantern sucked. You know, Batman v Superman sucked. It's just a lot of shit just sucked, you know?
Right.
I don't know why so much shit keeps on sucking for them. It's like
not just DC, but also Universal with their Universal Monster Universe. They tried to Dracula Untold. And that ended up.
But those could have been good, but they fucked up because the budgets were too big, and they starred Tom Cruise.
The only cinematic universe that doesn't seem to be failing as much is the monster verse, the kaiju verse.
Yeah,
but Kong. Though it could be short-lived after Godzilla vs. Kong in 2020.
I mean, I guess.
And then after that, Toho will start continuing making their own Godzilla cinematic universe.
But I mean, here's the thing: Toho is one of the progenitors of cinematic universes. Because think about it, all those Godzilla movies that took place in the same universe.
Right. I mean, Rojan and Mothra had their own solo movies before.
Yeah.
1954.
They did, but they still, you know, they still yeah, but they still were eventually part of the same universe. Like Godzilla versus the Thing. Okay, Mothra is part of this universe. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Okay, the Sea Monster is part of this universe. Godzilla versus Monster Zero. Rodan and Godzilla are fighting. so Rodan exists in that universe. So it's like, I mean, like Toto's been doing this for years. They're just going back to what they used to do. Like here's the thing: Shin Godzilla is not a bad movie. It's not a good Godzilla movie. I had to take a sip of my sweet tea, and I stand by that. I stand by saying that Shin Godzilla is not a good Godzilla movie. And I don't care what anyone says. They can get as mad as they want to. Like, how dare you, sir? I love Shin Godzilla. It's fucking awesome.
Probably those kind of people are also the same people who hated the 2014 Godzilla movie because of the lack of Godzilla screen time.
Yeah, but Godzilla in a lot of his movies is like that. Like Godzilla is not like the original Godzilla. You see Godzilla's head in the first 30-40 minutes, but after that, like you don't see him again until later. And that's
right.
Okay. Like I don't know why people are like, man, I don't want to. Let's Godzilla. Like, I mean, like, yes. My favorite Godzilla film is like modern Godzilla film is actually Godzilla Final Wars, because it's just so ridiculous, you know.
Right.
And plus, Godzilla kicks everybody's ass. It's like, you know, it's like watching a wrestling show where this guy just comes in and beats everybody's ass, because that's what happens in Godzilla Final Wars. Like I would say that the Godzilla Final Wars Godzilla would beat the shit out of Shin Godzilla, and I wouldn't be angry about that. I would pay to see that. But that's it. You guys have anything you want to talk about?
Let's see. I should mention that Orlando Bloom is open for playing Captain Britain for the MCU.
Yeah, he wants to get some of that Marvel money. I don't blame him. That Marvel money is.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of, you know. I mean, I don't blame them. Look, there's going to be some people that are going to be, there's going to be some positionings that are opening up. So I can't get mad. You know, I can't be like, oh man.
And there's a possibility that Mysterio will make an appearance in the Spider-Man Homecoming sequel, and will be played by Jake Gyllenhaal.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Though I would prefer it would be Bruce Campbell, because that was how he was. I mean, he was originally supposed to play him in
Who?
4. Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. I wish. I like Bruce Campbell. Like, I think Bruce Campbell for me is one of those actors who should have been way bigger and just never got his chance, you know, to be bigger. Because he's a good actor. Like, never have I seen a movie, even a bad movie with Bruce Campbell in it. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this guy. You know? Like, I've never been like, man, fuck Bruce Campbell. So, yeah.
And I should also mention that the season finale for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was left in a and a sour end towards its audience, because
I mean, it's surprising because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. hasn't been good for a while, if ever.
It didn't fully address the Infinity War situation throughout the last half of the season. No S.H.I.E.L.D. agents being
turning into dust,
and the only characters that were confirmed to be dead is Agent Fitz and Agent Coulson. Who's only got a few days or a week to live,
and they might find a way to save his ass. So you never know. I mean, listen, okay. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a good idea, badly executed. Okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the sad thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And it also ruined the whole realism that the MCU is going for, like how when it comes to time travel, where it's going under the fixed timeline, which is supposedly the most realistic form of time travel, where any changes done to the past are supposed to happen, rather than the dynamic timeline change that you see from Back to the Future or the multiverse theory used in Dragon Ball Z. And
I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think that's realistic. I ascribe to the string theory, aka the multiverse theory, where basically, you know, there's an event and then there are alternatives to that event, and all those alternatives basically create alternate realities. That's just me. You know, I'm just a dude. You know, I'm not a scientist. Because we had that in Back to the Future. That's the only reason. Because we had it in Back to the Future and it made sense.
But didn't Back to the Future use the dynamic timeline theory?
No, it was basically, it was dynamic, but that's still a derivation of the multi-universe. Because basically you have, like in the original Back to the Future, you have original Marty doing all that stuff. Then in Back to the Future 2, you have alternate. You have a dynamic version of an alternate version of Marty doing what he needs to do in order to stop Biff Tannen from, you know, changing his future. Because I mean, here's the thing. And this is what I forgot last week. Here's a crossover that never occurred to anybody, I don't think. Back to the Future crossed with Doctor Who. Yeah? You could, I mean, and obviously you couldn't do a movie of this. I mean, you could maybe do a cartoon. But I would prefer like a TV series, like Netflix style, maybe 13 episodes. But here's my idea, right? You've got Doc Brown, Marty McFly, the Doctor. You can use any Doctor. You can use the new Doctor. You can use an old Doctor. It doesn't matter because he's a Time Lord. And whoever the Doctor's companion is, and if, like in the first part of it, like Doc Brown and Marty are against Doctor Who and whoever his companion is. But then later on, they have to team up in order to save time itself. And of course, we have to have a hijink where Doc Brown's like, Marty, we have to go back in time. What, Doc? We've got to throw Biff Tannen's ancestor down a flight of stairs. Why? He's an asshole, Marty. That's why. Like, I think Back to the Future is one of the best film trilogies ever. The third one's not quite as good as the other two, but it's still overall very good. And I just like, it's got some really good comedic timing in it. Like in the beginning of Back to the Future 2, he's like, Marty, we've got to go back to the future. He's like, what happens, Doc? Do me and Jennifer grow up to be assholes or something? And Doc Brown has to stop and think about it. Like, I mean, and then you're wondering, why is he stopping to think about it? And then you see them in the future. They do grow up to be assholes. His dad and his mom are still really cool, but he and his wife are assholes. And yeah, Back to the Future crossed with
Doctor Who.
With Doctor Who, I think that would be an awesome time-bending show.
And which Doctor Who villains will make an appearance in this crossover?
You can have any of them. You can have the Daleks, even though they're kind of fucked up. I'm not a huge Dalek fan.
What about the Cybermen?
Either the Cybermen, the Daleks. Hell, you could have the Daleks and the Cybermen team up, along with the main villain of Back to the Future, which is Biff Tannen. Biff Tannen's like their Pokey. They're like, how can you do this? Yes, there's no way you could have this power. Hello, Doctor Who. Hello, Biff Tannen. hello. How am I going to rule time with your notes? I need time to look at this and change them into my notes, Doctor Who. Hello.
Just as long as he gets into a dump of manure in the end.
Manure. I hate manure. I hate manure. Anyway, yeah. So, like I said, that was a crossover I was thinking about. I was like, man, that'd be a fucking awesome crossover for Back to the Future. So, what do you guys think? Would that be a really good crossover?
I would be intrigued to see it.
Back to the Future cross with Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Doctor Who are you again? I'm Doctor Who. Your mother, I know. I'm Doctor Who. Yeah, I think that would be fucking awesome, actually. I'd totally watch that. I think it could be the best thing ever. If done properly. The key word is if done properly, because some people would obviously mess it up because that's what people do.
Right.
So, yeah. So any other crossovers you guys think could work that you forgot last week like I did? Because I just was not thinking. I was like, man, that'd be a really fucking good crossover.
Not at the moment. I should mention that the sixth and final installment of Sharknado is coming this year.
Oh God, that shit should have died years ago. I'm sorry, I don't like Sharknado. I know some people are gonna get mad. How dare you not like Sharknado? But
I'm pretty sure they'll agree with you on this one because Sharknado is never good to begin with. It just has an ironic fan.
Although I have to say that there are some things that are funny about it, like the one where the guy like friggin' has a chainsaw, jumps into a shark's mouth, and cuts his way out of it. I'm like, God damn, that's ridiculous.
And have you read Dune?
Yes, I've read the entire series and the expanded stuff. I'm a Dune fanboy.
Because I'm reading here that the adaptation is going to be split into 2 films.
Oh God. Jewel, you have any thoughts on this?
Probably depends if she too read. Oh, I think she left.
Well, hopefully she'll come back.
According to our message, she has to go for a bit because of tech difficulties.
I'm playing a video game at the same time, so that's probably why I didn't see the message. I'm not happy about that. Like Dune is a series. This kind of leads to the second topic, which is things that should be movies or should not be movies. Like Dune shouldn't be a movie.
Should it be a TV series instead?
It should be a TV series, or at least a mini series. Like, because the story is so deep and the concepts are so heady, you can't tell that story and talk and go with those characters and those concepts with just a movie. Like it doesn't work that way.
I see.
That's just me. Some people will disagree because they're allowed to disagree, and that's okay. I mean, but
yeah. Moving on to that, Universal Studios is going to be distributing the 25th James Bond movie.
Good. No, legitimately good.
Well, whatever happened to MGM, who the studio that holds the license of the James Bond series?
Because they're licensing it out. Because MGM, I think MGM declared bankruptcy. They don't have the money to do it anymore.
Right.
So
which means that James Bond is now part of the Universal property.
No, it just means that they licensed it. They don't actually, control it. It's kind of like EA has the license to release Star Wars games, but it doesn't mean they own Star Wars. It just means they can license it.
Right.
Which doesn't bother me. I know some people are gonna be like, "How dare you?" But
Of course, one thing that had on my mind when I read the news was, does that mean we're going to be getting a James Bond attraction for a Universal theme park?
That'd be cool. I mean, really, if I was going to design a James Bond attraction, I wouldn't do, I wouldn't make it a ride.
Probably a live show.
Yeah, I would do a live show where they're someone on the where they have a plant and they're like, someone here has these nuclear codes, and a plant is in the crowd, but it's someone who has the nuclear codes, and then someone on the train, someone there who looks kind of normal is
It's actually James Bond.
It's James Bond, and they you have all this awesome shit going on. It's like action stunt coordination and stuff like that. Like that'd be cool to me.
Right. Because recently, Universal Studios Florida just closed down the Terminator 2 live show.
Yeah.
And rumor has it that it's going to be replaced by a Jason Bourne live show.
I don't care about Jason Bourne. Why instead of having Jason Bourne, why don't we have the original super spy? Bond, James Bond. You could make it into an evening show, so people have to dress, formally. So then it fits in. So then someone wearing a suit and a tie would make sense. Who are you? The James Bond. James Bond.
So the question is, will it be based on the Daniel Craig Bond, or will it be a different Bond?
I think they should do like an amalgamation, because Daniel Craig is not going to be James Bond for much longer. Sure. Let's just keep it real. So instead of doing that, just do like a guy with black hair who's kind of tall, who can do a reasonable, who's got some swag to him,
Right.
Maybe several, because if that guy gets sick, you don't want to have just one James Bond. You want to have multiple James Bonds.
will they use any classic Bond villains or an original villain for this, maybe specifically for the show?
I think they can mix it up. Like maybe sometimes you have Jaws, maybe sometimes you have just some random guy. Maybe sometimes you have the guy with the hook hand from Live and Let Die. Maybe you could have themes where like some months of the year it's like old, like Sean Connery style Bond villains. Maybe sometimes it's like the like Roger Moore type Bond villains. Maybe sometimes it's I would say the Timothy Dalton James Bond, but Timothy Dalton James Bond was dark as fuck. And I really don't, I mean, if you do this during the day and it's for kids, then no Timothy Dalton. If it's like adults, I think they can handle seeing a dude get doused with gasoline and lit on fire in a fire suit, like what happened in License to Kill.
Right.
The name's Bond, James Bond.
Of course, any video game fan would dream for a live show to be based off of GoldenEye instead of the films.
GoldenEye's not that good.
But the game is. It's one of those. So maybe it's one of those rare occasions where the game based on movie is actually better than the movie itself.
I mean, GoldenEye isn't bad. Like, okay, GoldenEye for Pierce Brosnan is okay. Personally, like I think all of them have some cool things about them. Like in James Bond, in GoldenEye has some really cool moments, but like it's really hard for me to sit down and watch that movie from beginning to end. Right. Plus the theme song for GoldenEye isn't that good. Ironically, the James Bond film that people consider to be the worst had like the best theme song of the modern age of the Pierce Brosnan days, which is Die Another Day. Like that had a really cool theme song. And the opening was pretty cool. Watching James Bond get the shit tortured out of him after he got caught. like he's getting waterboarded. They're making him jump in a tank filled with scorpions. I mean, I'm like, shit, James. No wonder you're always having sex. I mean, shit. Die Another Day. She talks in her sleep. Who are you? The name's Bond. James Bond. You expect me to talk, Goldfinger? I'm sorry. I like.
And it looks like I'm out of sci-fi news-related, sci-fi related news.
Well, I got nothing. No, that's not true. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I think people should watch some of the other stuff because it's pretty good. My only downside with, oh man, sad that Jewel left us. I mean, like I said, I mean, like we're seeing Star Wars have this new resurgence. I think that the competition to Star Wars should be Star Trek, and I think Star Trek needs to come back, but not Discovery, because fuck that show.
What about Stargate or Battlestar Galactica?
Stargate's a little too much for me. Like Stargate doesn't know what it wants to be. Like, okay, you want to be an adventure, you want to be sci-fi, you want to be like a mystery, monster of the week type thing. And I'm gonna keep it real. I never liked Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
I know, blasphemy. People are like, you didn't like Battlestar Galactica, not the reboot? I didn't like the reboot either. But you know what they could bring back? Buck Rogers. And of course, my favorite pulp character. They tried to bring this back in the early 2000s, but the TV show sucked.
Knight Rider?
No. Well, that also sucked. No, Flash Gordon.
Oh, that show.
Yeah, they did a TV show that sucked. Here's the thing, okay? Flash Gordon always felt like to me that if you're gonna bring it back and you want to make it dark but still retain some of the off the wall bullshit, do it serialized. Do like 10, 11 episodes, 50 minutes each, 50 maybe 55 if you like want to do a long episode, and make it like the comics, except keep the soundtrack from the movie because the soundtrack's really fucking cool. Flash.
The Queen movie?
Yeah, that's like the best theme song ever. Like, and then look, the Flash Gordon movie, not that good, but my God, that theme song. I gotta go turn off the light real quick. But yeah, Flash Gordon, fucking awesome.
And it looks like we've almost reached an hour.
Yes, Flash Gordon would be awesome. Maybe another TV show based on Ice Pirates, maybe. Maybe they could bring back Briscoe County Jr.
And probably another redo of John Carter.
No, never John Carter, damn you. Never John Carter. I'm sorry. I saw that movie in movie theaters. I did not like it.
All right.
Man, I know some people are going to get mad when I say that. They're going to be like, how dare you, sir? How dare you not like John Carter of Mars? They could do a Tarzan TV series. I know that's not science fiction, but...
Right. Perhaps another redo of Frankenstein. Still, Universal had plans to do one, but on Bride of Frankenstein instead. But considering that the Dark Universe flopped big time, it's probably canceled by then. What about Earth versus the Flying Saucers?
Maybe Jules Verne, 2000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh yeah, that hasn't been adapted in a long while, hasn't it?
No. You could actually turn Captain Nemo into a hero. So it's basically like Star Trek, Under the Sea, except they already did that with SeaQuest, but I think that it could really work with 2000 Leagues Under the Sea.
I mean, didn't Jules Verne's been a prequel to 20,000 Leagues?
Yeah, Fantastic Island.
I mean, they could try adapting that film. Try to adapt that story into a film.
They could. I'd be cool with it.
And probably another adaptation of The Time Machine.
Oh God. I'd be cool with that, but
they'll probably need to update it because of how outdated the time periods are, the future time periods were.
I mean, basically, they never go into they go so far, you never get to see a future. You basically see he goes into the past and then he goes so far into the future that it's like post-apocalyptic. You know?
Right.
Which doesn't bother me, but you know. I just want to see it done well, you know?
Right.
Because I think H.G. Wells is one of the great science fiction writers of all time, and him and Jules Verne are like two of the masters of that particular thing, and I think it could be done well, you know.
Right.
But it's got to be done well. It can't just be some shit thrown together, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And who's to guarantee it's not going to be some shit just thrown together, you know?
And it looks like we reached the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, so anything you want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Nothing else to say. Just my usual articles at Video Game Facts, because I recently posted an article discussing about the most recent controversy Capcom has made, which is Resident Evil 7, available only on the Switch, only on the cloud version at least.
That's just.
But we'll probably discuss more about that tomorrow.
That is so fucking stupid. Yeah, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So yeah, this is Mr. Red Fox here. Thank you for joining. For those of you who didn't watch, don't forget to watch this wonderful content on my channel. I'm going to start re-uploading and re-showcasing old videos of mine, like old reviews of certain science fiction films like The Fly, John Carpenter's The Thing, stuff like that. So, you know, because I think it's some pretty good content. And these are some pretty good movies, so why not talk about them? So with that being said, that's the end of this video. Sorry, this podcast. Thank you. Stay away from the orange juices, and good night.